Hello, and welcome to my first ever episode of the Maddfuzzy podcast. I am your host, Marta. I am coming to you from Knox, Maine, where I live with my handsome man and our two dogs, Truffle and our white shepherd white dog. Truffle is a beautiful little brown mix. And so happens all three of them are downstairs. Hopefully they're not going to disrupt this podcast in any way. They do love to bark, and the neighbors' dogs love to bark, and they'll just get each other going. So let's hope for minimal interruptions. They have been good so far today. It has been a kind of cold and rainy day here in Maine. It has been kind of a cold and rainy start to the summer. We really haven't kicked into summer fully yet. The light outside is nice and diffused. So I am trying out, for the first time, all this equipment. So hopefully there'll also be minimal technical difficulties. But I thought a rainy day would be perfect for a podcast. There's a fire going in the stove downstairs. It's nice and toasty and cozy here. And I am hoping to reach out to you all in the internet and talk to you a little bit about what I'm making. I am knitting a little bit this week. I am spinning this week. I have a few fun, like I said, homesteading crafts, which include some pickles. And I'll talk to you a little bit about life in general, as well as my adventure into being an indie dyer and yarn producer. So we'll kind of touch all those things, but I want to jump right in with just a little bit of administrative. First of all, where you can find me on the internet. I am most active on Instagram. You can find me at Maddfuzzy. It's a fledgling Instagram feed. My former feed was at MadHousePhoto, and Mad has two D's, as well as in Maddfuzzy with two D's. I'll put Maddfuzzy down here. You gotta see it. So you can find both of those feeds. I have been active at MadHousePhoto for a lot longer. I'm just sort of starting up the yarn side of things with the Maddfuzzy, and I'm going to keep podcast stuff there too. So that's where you can find me on Instagram. We do also have a Ravelry group. It's a fledgling Ravelry group as well. Currently no members except for myself, but I'm hoping all of you will come by and chat with me, because I am so excited to talk to everyone about yarn and new and exciting things you're working on. So in that group, there will be an introduction thread. I definitely want to hear from you. I want to know your names and your stories and what you're knitting, and I especially want to hear about your socks. And I'll let you know a little bit more about that when we get into knitting and why I am so sock obsessed. There will also be a group called hashtag All I Talk About Is Socks, and I will also have a hashtag for that on social media. I want to talk about socks. All we talk about is socks. Let's talk about heel constructions. Let's talk about what needles you use. Let's talk about patterns you're trying. I want that a beautiful and flourishing place for anyone who is interested in socks, who knit socks, who want to knit socks, who love just looking at socks. Let's just all talk about socks. I will also have in that thread questions if you want to ask me any kind of questions, if you want clarification, if I left something out of my show notes, which, by the way, down in the description bar and posted in the Ravelry group, I will have a show notes segment where I will put all that information, because likely I'm going to forget, yarn names and things like that. This is my first attempt, so we're just gonna see what magic I can make here. So moving on with knitting. Let's talk about knitting. I have a small disclaimer before we begin here. I only knit socks. I plan on knitting other things in the future. I'm only knitting socks because I have just fallen in love with them as a product and as a project. I wear knitted socks all the time. I work on a farm. I am constantly in rubber boots. Hand knit socks just keep my feet warm and dry. And so I also love the fact that they are totally portable. They're a one skein project. I have the pattern memorized. I can just make socks for sock's sake, But I do plan on making other things. I really do want to make a few sweaters this winter. I should probably talk to you a little bit about Betsy. So Betsy is my man's mother, and we love Betsy. She's wise beyond her years and wonderful and amazing. So you'll hear me talk about Betsy a lot. So Betsy is the knitter extraordinaire, and Betsy is definitely an experienced sweater knitter. And so she has gone off to Washington, D.C. for the summer to fight the good fight and make some good for farmers and the food movement. And so I don't have my knitting friend here to kind of hold my hand through sweaters. So I plan on knitting sweaters further on in the winter when she comes back to help me through, I don't know, any kind of hiccup. Just her nearby will give me the confidence, I'm sure. Everyone says when you know how to knit a sock, you can pretty much knit anything. So I'm going to dive into an easy sweater pattern. I've got a couple of them in my queue that I'm going to try. So I'll fill you in on that as we go. But as of right now, it is all socks all the time. Because hashtag all I talk about is socks. And we'll get right into this sock parade. Let's do the sock parade. All right. So my first sock is a finished object. Huzzah! So it is a finished object. I'm just going to show you the one because it's the other blocker. I only have one set of blockers. The other blocker is being used for my next sock in the sock parade. So this is what I am calling my 70s sock because it reminds me of a 70s kitchen. It's just such fabulous colors. I got this sock yarn as a gift. It was a Barocco sock. I'm not sure the colorway. I doubt it's 70s kitchen. It's probably some number. For watching someone's cat. That's the best payment. Pay me in yarn. And so I knitted these up. I did an extra long cuff. I mean, look at this cuff. It goes all the way up to the top of the sock blocker. It's like I said, I live in rubber boots. And my socks, if they get sucked down and eaten by my shoe, it drives me crazy. So this is extra long. I knit my socks 64 stitches normally on a 2mm needle or a 2.25. These are actually a 2.25. Got a 2x2 cuff. I usually do about 20 rows, sometimes longer. I don't like to count, so that's another reason socks are my jam. I only have to go up to 64 stitches. So this is the cuff of it, and it's just stockinette. When I get down to my heel flap and gusset, I always do a heel flap and gusset construction. I plan on trying new things. I'm going to try new things. As we move forward here. But I'll do a garter ridge where I connect and pick up my stitches. I got this from the Hermione's Everyday Sock pattern. I'll put that link to that pattern below because it's really a must-do pattern and most people have done it, but it was one of my first pattern socks and this little element was just so fun and I loved how it looked. I loved how the stitches were so easy to pick up and I've just continued to do it, and then it's got a slip stitch. I have a 7.5 size foot, so I'm pretty easy to knit for, in comparison to like the giant feet of my boyfriend. So there's that. And that is my singular finished object for today. I decided not to go back too far. I've been knitting socks all year. I'm going to do the Wool and Vine Box of Socks KAL, because who isn't? It's a wonderful KAL. If you haven't checked it out, hashtag Box of Socks. And I'm also doing a personal goal of 24 pairs this year. I really want that to be how many I can produce. And they're not all going to be for me. I got to get going on Christmas knitting here soon, right? So, let's see. The next up on my docket here is the 80s socks. So I have my 70s socks, and these are my 80s socks. This is a hoe. This is a hoe, y'all. So this is the first finished sock. I did 60 stitches thinking I could produce a better fitting sock that wouldn't be eaten inside my shoes. And it really just doesn't fit. It's a little bit too tight across the bridge. I'm going back to 64. It was an experiment. I'm going to wear these because they were a Christmas gift. The yarn is, I'll show you the tag here because I do have that tag. It is Diamond Select Footsies. It is a 75 superwash 25 polyamide blend. I believe the colorway is 3150. I know, it just invokes just visions of the color, right? I love when they just do numbers. It's imaginative, I tell you. And so the project itself is living in my Erin Lane bag. Erin Lane bags, one of the first makers I ever heard about. I got this for Christmas. I just love this fabric. It's just such a strong, nice fabric. They're well sewn. I'm hard on my bags. I accidentally ripped off a handle, so it doesn't close all the way, but I'll still use it because I love it, and it's pink. And you'll find out very quickly that pink is my favorite color. So moving on to my next hoe. I do have a second hoe. Isn't that exciting? This I got the yarn as a test from the mill because I am producing my own yarn base as well as dyeing it myself. So I have taken the wool and I skirted the wool and I brought it up to the mill, and we were doing tests to see how this sheep's wool would actually respond to his machines, because he had never used it and I had, just as a hand spinner, and we were just going to try to figure out how it worked. And it is a gorgeous sheep to work with. It's called East Frisian, and the farm is actually a sheep dairy and a goat dairy, and so these are meat and milk sheep, but they have this gorgeous fleece, and the owner of the farm, Jesse, the farm's name is Fuzzy Udder. I'll talk more about this when we get to the actual yarn segment, but it produces a beautiful yarn. This test was a little underspun. I wanted it to be more of a high twist sock yarn, and so this one was underspun, but when someone gives you yarn, you dye it and you knit it. So I dyed this one up really quickly, just put a couple colors together I thought would be fun, and I just did my simple sock. But because it is a little low spun and it's 100% wool, it's not superwash or anything like that, I did put a little heel and toe string in there. So you buy this at your local sock yarn, comes in a little spool, and I believe it's got a nylon content, and I just knit it with the yarn into the heel and the toe to make it a little bit extra strong. This again is a pretty high sock. I like my socks really with a long cuff. You're not going to see me with a lot of shorty socks. Rubber boots, they chafe the shins. You got to protect my shins with beautiful wool. So I love this also, the kind of self-striping effect that has come with the dye. I think I'm going to try to dye something similar to this again. I remember the technique and it should be pretty simple. This is a 64 sock. I did this though on a 2mm needle. So 64 stitches and 2mm needle, size 7.5. So moving on to my next work in progress. Oh, actually, I should show you how far I am on its mate. I am so far on its mate. I'm going to definitely have this done by the next podcast, which, by the way, reminds me of how often this podcast is going to be. My podcast will be every other week, so it'll be about twice a month that you'll be seeing me. I think any more than that, I'm just not going to have enough knitting for you. So we're going to keep it there unless things really pick up in my knitting life, and then we'll do more often. But back to the second sock. So this is the second sock. I have just turned the heel, and I've almost actually finished with the gusset as well. Again with my garter ridge edge. But this one's a little bit fun because I am doing purple in the heel instead of that blue, so they will be kind of a little mismatched. But I have them on my needles. I use carbons. I love carbons. I am like a carbon junkie. I have several needles. You know, I've always picked them up. They're just dynamite. They're warm in your hand. They're kind of flexible. I've used 100% carbon fiber, and I just don't like the feel as much as I do with the tips. Yeah, Knitter's Pride's got a great product there. So I do carbons and I do DPNs. I hope to move into trying magic loop and whatnot. Betsy has quite the hoard of needles, and so I'm going to dive through that and see if she has any circulars. That'd be a good size for socks. So moving on to my final work in progress. This is in one of my favorite bags here. It's got little campers on it. Oh my god, I love this bag. It's a nice square bottom bag, a great size. Like I said, I'm super hard on my bags. This has gone to every farmer's market that I have gone to since I bought it. I try to knit socks at farmer's markets, so this has been out on the road. It's had a hard life, so there may be a couple stains on it. Like I said, like me, it's gotta be able to do running, jumping, climbing. Eddie Lizard kind of. So this right here is the very, very beginning, the cuff of a Mercury sock. I know everyone is knitting the Mercury sock. I had to try it. It would be my first lace sock, and I think that's why it's only at the cuff. I'm kind of intimidated to continue into the lace, but we'll do it. The great thing about socks is, you know, they're on your feet, so you can kind of fudge them. And I do fudge them, but I'm excited to get into my first actual sock with a lace pattern. It's exciting. Everyone says it's fun. I'm gonna drink the Kool-Aid. I'm gonna do it. But that reminds me, I don't have the tag for this yarn, but it is, I have a similar skein. It is this kind. Focus. Look at me, I'm one of those focus people. There we go. Ta-da! And so it is super soft. But I'm not sure, you know, now that I'm making my own sock base, I'm kind of worried about the longevity of these super soft socks. But I guess if you knit enough of them, they don't get as much wear, right? You can rotate them through. So I just got to knit more socks. That's the moral of that story. Knit more socks. So we're going to move on to my next segment, which is the spinning segment. I do spin. I have a Kromsky wheel as well as a drop spindle, and I'll show you a little bit of progress on both of them. So for Christmas, I ordered an advent calendar. I love advent calendars, from Bakewell Hearts. And she was one of the first people I followed on Instagram. Her little rologs and batlings and everything just like, they made my spinning heart sing. I was a fledgling spinner, and I fell in love with them. And so I've been ordering an advent calendar for a couple years now. And so look at this. This is the rustic colorway. I feel safe showing this because it's June, and I've been slowly spinning this since June. It's got some natural fibers in it, as well as these gorgeous like autumn colors. I think if I have it done by autumn and knit myself a pair of autumn socks out of these, I'd be very happy. But I have just a whole little basket of them, and I've been going along. I was trying to spin a really thin 3-ply sock yarn. I was going to chain ply it, and the natural fiber in these rologs makes it a little bit, it's not tough, it just takes a little more time. So I've been slowly progressing through it. This is what I got on the bobbin here. There we go. That is gorgeous, and there's some little bit of barber pulling in it. It is a really thin little yarn there. But I hope to have this spun here soon and plied in socks before the leaves change. I mean, live in New England. I'll know exactly when the leaves change. It's spectacular. I'll have to show pictures in the future. So I also have in spinning, I have been spinning on my drop spindle. There are a couple podcasters out there who are doing miscellaneous drop spindle, kind of spin-alongs, make-alongs. And I am a participant in spirit most of the time. I love what people are doing, and I love, you know, the community, and I love kind of watching the different feeds and the different podcasts and whatnot. But I rarely ever have the time or energy to take the picture, make the post, and so on. I'd much rather look at everybody else's. So I participate in a lot of podcasts, knit-alongs and make-alongs in spirit. So I am spinning along on my drop spindle in spirit for a lot of the podcasts, make-alongs. So this is a fiber I got in Maine. We have the Common Ground Fair. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's spectacular and amazing, and it's all organic and farmers, and it's huge, huge. And it's just right down the road from us. It's about 5 miles from our door. And so we go really early on the first day, and I make my purchases. I bought a merino fleece, which I hopefully will put this drum carder to work on, and have some really fun adventures in that to share with you. But I bought this kind of odd ball mix of fibery, colory goodness. And so this has been just kind of what I've been playing with when I don't have energy to pedal away on my wheel. And I have a drop spindle. I'm not sure the maker of this. I found them on Etsy when I first discovered Etsy, and asked my mother to purchase it for Christmas. And it's got a tiger maple shaft, It's a very lightweight spindle, but I have been spinning up a storm on it, just kind of a little bit in the evening and whatnot. It's been coming out this kind of crazy, you know, when you mix all the colors together, it sometimes comes out brown. It is kind of brown, and then when you get up close, you see the individual things. So that's what I've been spinning on. I've been absolutely adoring it. So this last weekend, I went to the Fiber Frolic. Yes, I frolicked away at the Windsor Fairground. I went with my friend Jillian, who is a fabulous friend and a wonderful farmer. I'm going to try to plug as many farms as I possibly can in this podcast. I've got some amazing people and friends that are doing amazing things in Maine, and really, you should know about them. Why not? So my friend Jillian, she has Redgate Farm. They sell chicken and duck and goose eggs at several farmers markets, as well as they're going to start milking some goats. So she has a whole little herd of goats that she cares for and tends to, and she's hoping to turn that into a dairy operation very soon. I have such wonderful and entrepreneurial friends. But we went to the Fiber Frolic. I got her pulled away long enough from her chef job. She's a chef at one of the premium restaurants in the area. And I pulled her also away from her farm aide job. She works at another creamery in the area. Busy people. And we went and finally got all of our ducks in a row, and we went to the Fiber Frolic and had a blast. There were so many amazing vendors there. We did just loops around, kind of, you know, we want to see what everything has before we make our purchases, and we came upon this stall that was selling fiber by the ounce, and they were running a second-day sale, and it was a really good price per ounce, and the colors were just out of this world. So we both purchased something from that booth. So it's in a bag down here, pardon my crinkle. Look at this. Isn't this amazing? I just can't believe the colors in this. So, I stole a card because I figured you guys would want to know. So, pardon, I'm trying to dig it in here for it. There's so much fluff. So here is their card. Give you all that information. In case you can't read this card, I'm going to put this information in the show notes as well. So they were just a fabulous booth. The woman was so nice and answered all of my questions. And I mean, oh my God. But that's not it. That's not all. I also got, it's pink. A pink. I love pink. Pink is like my spirit color. But this pink is just fantastic. It's got this deep red and then this hot, hot pink. I'm spinning this into sock yarn. I'm spinning this into sock yarn for socks for myself. I am going to enjoy the entire process. I am going to enjoy knowing it's for me. I'm going to just love the pink. It's just going to, I'm really excited to be overwhelmed in pink with that. My second acquisition, I stopped by my local yarn shop. The local yarn shop to me is Belfast, which is Heavenly Socks. Right? Why? She has an amazing selection of sock yarns, and she gets all the pattern socks first, and she's just, I love that store. You'd like descend into it, so you're like going down into like this yarny dungeon. Oh, it's so amazing. But she had the new Arnie and Carlos perfect line in pink. I know. Look at the sock it's gonna make. Look at these. Like little Mary Jane socks. I mean, I've knit the Perfects before, and I just love doing it. I mean, it's real wool. It's the patterns are fun. A potato chippy, you just, boom, 2 socks done, and they wear really well. So this is being cast on. I'm kind of participating along to, again in spirit, to the One Ball of Love KAL that the Happy Knitting podcast is doing. Which is where you knit 1 skein of commercial sock yarn into socks a month. So one of my pairs, because I'm doing 24 pairs, there'll be 2 pairs per month, is going to always be in a commercial sock yarn. I forgot one other thing. We'll go one last thing. We'll kind of wrap this all up as far as the knitting, spinning, and all that good fun. We'll wrap that up with I am doing what I am calling a mini sock or memory sock garland. I think I have it has hashtag memory sock garland or hashtag memory garland. It's going to be right here. So you can play along as well, because this is kind of a good idea. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but it's a good idea. So I am making a tiny sock for every big sock I make this year. I mean, look at this little thing. And I do it exactly the same. If I did a really long cuff, I'll do a really long cuff. So this is, if you don't know, my 70s sock in mini form. And I'm going to hang them all up behind me. And so I'll have a memory of every sock I used, or every sock I made and every yarn I used. And I have, because this isn't my first sock of the year, I have 2 other ones. And I started a little late. So this was the Charade Sock, which is a pattern on Ravelry. It's a wonderful slip stitch pattern. I just loved making this sock. I will make another sock. This is in On the Round. They are a local dyer to me. I'm down in Owl's Head, and she just is phenomenal. If you haven't checked out her stuff, do. She has a website as well as a beautiful Instagram feed. She's one of my enablers on Instagram. So I made this tiny little sock. I wear these almost every single day. And then I also have this sock. So this yarn was from One Loop and Lane. I got it, actually went to the store in Bangor, Maine. She has a wonderful shop, as well as does a whole line of, local yarns that she has spun up. We share a mill, so it's good quality. But this has kind of this wonderful mock cable pattern. This is the Targaryen Sock pattern on Ravelry. And so it has this wonderful cable pattern. I gave these socks to my mother for her birthday. She loves them. She got them and she goes, "Oh, these are your best ones." Thanks, Mom, because you've gotten many other pairs. So I'm glad I'm improving. That's always a good sign. So we will move on to a little bit about Maddfuzzy. So I had a dream a while ago of creating a perfect sock yarn, because I knit socks all the time. I feel like I've done it enough to know what I like, and I'm hoping that my preferences are very similar to other sock knitters. I love a high twist sock. I want a long wearing sock. So I found a long wearing wool. So East Frisian is a milk and meat sheep primarily, but my friend Jessie, which is Fuzzy Udder Creamery. That's at Fuzzy Udder on Instagram, right? I'll put that right down here so you can find her, because she has a gorgeous Instagram feed as well. And she is an award-winning cheesemaker as well as an amazing person, hardworking. And she has this creamery and all this wool. And every year she has to shear her sheep, but she's really had no use for the wool. Everyone told her it's not going to be good wool, it's not good wool, but she didn't throw it away. So I went and selected the fleeces. I skirted the fleeces on the property. I drove them all the way up to the mill, which is in Aroostook County, which is the very, very, very tippy top of Maine. Maybe I'll put a little map of Maine and put that on there, because I drove a long ways. I just went whoop, straight up north, dropped it off the mill, told him what I wanted. We had several conversations. I'm using Aroostook Fiberworks. Andy at Aroostook Fiberworks took what I wanted. I wanted this many twists per inch. I wanted this many yards per gram. I wanted this and that. And he created this yarn. He created the perfect sock yarn, in my opinion. It's not scratchy. It's long wearing. I wouldn't say it is soft. It's not like a merino cashmere. It's not even like a merino. It's not even like a BFL. It's a little bit scratchier, but it's going to be extremely long wearing. And it is just stunning. I'll hold up a skein here. This is my 80-20 blend. I do a nylon blend for those who want an even stronger sock. So that's what it looks like. It's just squishy, but yet so you can feel every individual strand. It's got an amazing texture, an amazing feel. It's so squishy, but not like merino squishy. You're going to trust that it's going to hold together and it's going to wear really, really well. I also did, because she had asked, till she got some skeins out of the whole deal, to do a dark brown or kind of a black. The sheep they would call black, but it comes out this gorgeous chocolate brown. The thing about her farm is she beds her sheep in shavings. So the black especially, just maybe he lived or she lived a little bit closer to the shavings, or liked to lay down it more, but there was a lot of shavings in it. And so that's my gift to you guys, a little bit of Whitefield, Maine in every single skein. So, you know, these sheep are real sheep. They're out there running around. You know, actually, I'll try to find a picture of the East Frisian sheep here. I actually visited the farm yesterday after the Fiber Frolic. She was having her open house and dropped off the wool that I owed her, and she was so happy. I'm so happy she was happy with it. But I took some pictures, so I will insert some pictures of the little baby sheep. They had lambing season just recently, so there's little babies running around, and I got to pet some sheep and check on how my fleeces for next year are doing. So I've been dyeing these up as well. Now, the Maddfuzzy is a fledgling little thing right now. It's mainly a name, this podcast, my kitchen stove, and tons of cones of yarn. So I'm manually skeins everything up. I'm dyeing everything and deciding kind of where I want to go with my colorways at the moment. So there is no website at the moment. I'm not selling at the moment. I am really just kind of launching this. This is really going to catch some speed as we go into the winter. But as of right now, it's the first run. It's the first base, which is going to be a fingering base, 2-ply, high twist. I will try other bases. That's definitely going to happen. There will be tons of other bases. But for right now, we're going to stick with the one, and we'll do another milling and see how that all goes in the future. But like I said, a little fledgling little company. So I'll show you my first 2 little colorways here. It's a little sneaky peek for, you know, these people who go back and watch episode 1, or even you folks who have come right now, like as it's happening. You know, there's no 2, there's only 1. So thanks for being one of the first. But this is the colorway. I'm calling it my Romanian friend. That's fun. So it's got, you know, charcoal and slate, and then these pops of pink and red. So that's my Romanian friend. And these are just 20-gram skeins. I don't want to, the wool is difficult for me to obtain, so I don't want to use a lot of it for my tests, so I'm doing little mini skein tests. So this one I'm calling Mermaid Rope. So it's got blues and yellows. And it's just the luster of this wool. I can't believe that this sheep has not been discovered before. It's just phenomenal. The stitch definition with this yarn is going to be amazing. So those are the first couple of skeins for Maddfuzzy. And I'll announce every exciting announcement for Maddfuzzy will be here in this segment of this podcast. So you can be up to date. And thanks for tuning in for the very, very beginning. So moving on to my final segment, which is about my life and kind of what we're up to. This is going to be a big, sweeping, overarching thing, really first. So we are building a 20 by 20 cabin, basically in the front yard of this house that I'm sitting in now. And that's going to be our homestead. And so we have a big garden here. We have an orchard, about 48 acres. I hope to turn this into at least a sustainable farm. So we'll have some animals, big garden, and it's just a lot of manual labor at the moment. And so we're kind of getting that all together, but I've been practicing my homestead craft because, you know, if you're gonna live the lifestyle, you gotta go all out. So I picked up 6 pounds of fiddleheads. If you don't know what fiddleheads are, if you're not from the Northeast, they come out in the spring, and they're the very, very tippy top of a fern. And you go out and you cut them, and everyone has them, and they're in grocery stores and they're at markets. But my friend Kevin, who has a farm in Unity, had a ton of these fiddleheads at market. So I picked up a whole bunch. I brought them home, and I Skyped with Betsy on how to can. I had canned with her before, but I had never been by myself. Because hashtag bestie knows best, you know, she knows everything. It's amazing. So I called her up on Skype, and she talked me step by step through the canning process. And I think they all suction down, but I've got like 6 quarts of pickled fiddleheads. So if you don't know what a fiddlehead looks like, that's what a fiddlehead looks like, the little top of a fern. and they're going to be ready soon. We're going to eat them. I'm so excited. I love pickles. There's going to be a lot of pickles on this podcast. So that's what Maddfuzzy podcast is all about. Pickles and socks. I'm not going to put that in the tagline. I think that would scare people off. But if you made it this far, you're pretty good with the pickles and socks. Thank you so much for tuning in to my first ever podcast. I hope to have another podcast out to you in a couple of weeks here. I will announce it on Instagram. So if you are out there on the Instagram world, please follow me. That's at Maddfuzzy again. And if you would like to join the Ravelry group, I would love to meet you. Introduce yourself. I'm thinking I might try to do a giveaway of sorts for the next episode. So I might do something with, the first 100 people who, you know what, I'm gonna announce it. I'm gonna do a giveaway for the first 100 people who join my Ravelry group. I will draw a winner from the first 100 introductions in the introductions thread. Just use random.org, and I will be sending you a skein of yarn. It will be a skein of yarn. For you guys being 100 first people in the group, you will get a skein of yarn. So that giveaway I'll announce probably the skein of yarn in the next episode. I'm not expecting 100 people in the next, 2 weeks, but hey, if it happens, that's fantastic. But I'll show you what that skein's going to be, and we'll get those numbers up there. Thank you again for tuning in and spending just a little bit of your day with me. I am Marta, and happy knitting!